Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV presents Beyond the Realm. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time that I go live. Don't forget that you can follow me on Instagram at Queen Ahmadiyyah also on Instagram at divine_goddess_27, on Twitter at dgoddess27, on Patreon at Queen Ahmadiyyah, and on Brighton at Queen Ahmadiyyah. Okay. Soundy says, grab a snack for weird and scary stories, Royal Family. Let's get back into it. Absolutely. Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about the legend of the Wendigo. Now, the Wendigo is a folklore or story that came from the Native Americans, right? And it is about a demonic entity being that has said to have made people become cannibals and start craving human flesh. Now, legend has it that sometimes when people have in history engaged in cannibalism, that has also caused them to become possessed by this demon. Okay? And then they can't stop eating and craving human flesh. Such as back in the 1800s when there was famine and people were starving, and there were some people said to have eaten their relatives who died and family members and things like that or whatever, actually killed family members to eat them, to keep from starving to death. Then they, said that those people were either possessed by a Wendigo, which caused them to do it, or became possessed by one after they tasted the human flesh. Okay? So let's talk about it. It's like the red-haired giants among the Native American folklore. Absolutely, Ashe 77. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, the Wendigo is described as being a giant spirit or ghost standing over 15 feet tall. It is often stated that it has glowing eyes, long yellow fanged jagged teeth, a very long tongue, and matted hair. It is also said that the Wendigo is driven by an insatiable hunger for human flesh. Now, the legend states that the poor souls who have been turned into Wendigos are doomed to this form because they ate human flesh while alive in order to survive. Now, in fact, some state that this legend is meant to be a cautionary tale warning against cannibalism. Over the years, there have been a large number of sightings of this creature, which have resulted in the legend being kept alive. Now, early Eastern settlers often reported seeing a banshee-like creature that feared its appearance because they believed that this meant that there was to be a death in their community. So the Wendigo to them was a harbinger. Now, Rose, a small northern Minnesota town, reported sightings of the Wendigo near the community from the late 1900s into the early 1920s. And each time, right after these sightings, an unexpected death would occur. Now, as recently as the last century, Native Americans still believe in the existence of the Wendigo. One Cree Indian by the name of Jack Fiddler stated that he had seen the creature many times in his life. Now, the beliefs that the Wendigo seeks human flesh and that it is the belief is that it seeks human flesh and that it is a portent of doom. And that belief still persists today. Now, I'm going to tell you the story of a Native American tale about the Wendigo, okay? What some of the natives say actually happened. It had been a long, harsh winter with snowstorms that left behind large drifts. Now, when the latest storm briefly broke, a father sent his son to hunt for much-needed food. The son, keeping his spear and his knife close, looked for any trace of animal tracks in the snow. The forest was oddly quiet, gleaming with snow and ice. As the son moved through the trees, he heard a loud, strange hissing sound. Now, it seemed to come from everywhere. He spotted blood-soaked footprints in the path in front of him. He sensed the Wendigo was watching him. He knew about this creature because his father had described it to him as a child. It was as large as a tree with a lipless mouth and jagged teeth. As it breathed, it hissed. Now, it had matted hair that was often covered in a long white robe, a star mark on its forehead. The creature's footprints always trailed blood. It was known to kill and eat any human that crossed its path. Now, the son knew that if he didn't prevail, he would die. He backed away slowly from the hissing sound. He gripped his spear in one hand and his knife in the other. A snowbank next to him erupted as the creature leapt at him. He rolled quickly through the snow to one side. The white snow that now covered him concealed him from view. The Wendigo whipped his massive frame around, quickly looking for him. The son threw his spear, striking the creature squarely in the chest. The Wendigo grunted and easily shook the spear off. The son hid behind a small tree as the creature continued to search for him. Now the Wendigo approached his hiding place. His sharp eyes spotted the boy's outline right against the tree. The creature then bent towards him, its long arms reaching out. The son, taking his last chance, raced forward and embraced the creature at the same time, thrusting his knife deeply into the Wendigo's eye. It screamed in pain, and the knife twisted deeper into its brain. The creature tried to pull the boy off of his chest, but the son stubbornly clung to him, stabbing one eye and then the other again and again. The Wendigo collapsed to the ground, crushing the boy beneath it. The boy pulled himself loose and stood staring down at the creature. Its form started to fade against the snow, only the blood pouring from its eye and ears showing any contrast to the snow. The figure completely disappeared, leaving just a pool of blood where it had fell. Now the boy, shaken, tired, and still terrified, headed home. The fates were with him, because at the edge of the wood, a fat red fox appeared. With a prayer for Thanksgiving, the boy killed the fox and took it home to his starving family. That meat lasted for several days. When the winter storm had come, when the last winter storm had come and gone, the son could once and go hunt again for food. So that's just one of the stories of an encounter they say that occurred with the Wendigo. Okay, so now listen to this. Everyone, please be sure to get the likes up. Please like and share the video so that we draw more people into the viewing through the algorithm. Now, while this creature is considered by many to be the creation of horror writer Algernon Blackwood and his classic terror tale called The Wendigo, the spirit of this evil entity began with Native American folklore and with them recounting different instances where people actually said that they had encountered a Wendigo. Now, the Native American versions of the creature spoke of a gigantic spirit over 15 feet tall that had once been human but had been transformed into a creature. Though all of the descriptions of the creature vary slightly, the Wendigo is generally said to have glowing eyes, long yellow fang, jagged teeth, and an overly long tongue. Most have a sallow yellowish skin, but others have said that it has matted hair. They are tall and lanky and are driven by a horrible hunger for human flesh. Now, according to the lore, the Wendigo is created whenever a human resorts to cannibalism to survive. In years past, such a practice was possible, although it is still rare. But as many of the tribes and settlers in the region were cut off by the bitter snow and ice in the North Woods, unfortunately, eating other people to survive was sometimes their last resort, and thus the legend of the Wendigo was created. But how real are these creatures? Could the legend of the Wendigo have been created merely as a warning against cannibalism, or could sightings of the Bigfoot-type creatures have created the stories? While this is unknown, it's believed that white settlers took to the region took the stories quite seriously. At times, they even took the sightings and reports quite seriously and made it enough of the made enough of the local culture stories that frightened people. Now, even in the last century, Native Americans actively believed in and searched for the Wendigo. One of the most famous Wendigo hunters was a Cree Indian named Jack Fiddler. He claimed to have killed at least 15 of the creatures in his lifetime, and although the last murder resulted in his imprisonment at the age of 87. In October of 1907, Fiddler and his son Joseph were tried for the murder of a Cree Indian woman. Now, they both pleaded guilty to the crime, but defended themselves by stating that the woman had been possessed by the spirit of a Wendigo and was on the verge of transforming into one entirely. According to their defense, she had to be killed because she murdered other members of the tribe. Now, there are still many stories told of Wendigos that have been seen in the northern Ontario, near the cave of the Wendigo, and around the town of Kenora, where a creature has been spotted by traders, trackers, and trappers for decades. Now, there are many who still believe that the Wendigo roams the woods and the prairies of northern Minnesota and Canada. Whether it seeks human flesh or acts as a portent of coming doom is anyone's guess. But before you start to doubt whether or not it exists, remember that the stories and legends of this fearsome creature have been around for many years. The legends have to have come from somewhere. Okay, so we might be getting a lot of Wendigo energy soon based on the report from the CDC. Of course, they say it's lore. Most truth is cloaked in so-called fiction. Absolutely, Dominique. Absolutely. So let me say this. This story about the Wendigo, or these stories about it, remind me of the guy in Florida, the black guy who chewed off the man's face in a zombie attack that I told you all about on a previous live. It reminds me of that because here's the thing. People who are said to have been possessed by the Wendigo, they say they develop something called Wendigo psychosis, right? And they also develop something called Wendigo fever, where they get this they get very hot. Their body starts feeling like it's burning, like it's on fire, and they strip naked and they run through the woods and everything trying to cool off, right? Remember the guy, and they also result in killing people and eating them. Now, remember the story in Florida, the guy that killed the homeless person and didn't kill him, but he tried to kill him, but he chewed their face off. Remember that guy was butt naked? He stripped off all of his clothes. Now, I'm just saying that sounds very similar to these stories about the Wendigo, because the people strip naked and they run out and they start killing and eating people. And that sounds very similar to what happened with him. Okay, so that's just all real crazy. There was also another story that was told, and I believe this was like in, I want to say like it was in 1878. Okay, a Native American known as Swift Runner slaughtered and ate his entire family. Now, his son died due to the harsh cold and the conditions of the winter. And so when the son died, because there was famine and the family was starving, they were forced to consume his dead body. So then afterwards, the police found out, or whoever was in charge, the people investigating this, because I don't think they had police back then. But anyway, they actually investigated this, right? And they found the mutilated bodies of 5 other family members, mother and children. Now, with that all being said, some believe that after they ate the body of the dead son due to them starving, that is what made Swift Runner turn into a Wendigo. And that's what made him kill the rest of his family and eat them. That's what some people think. Now, on the other hand, some people think that he just killed his family so that he could survive, because he was worried about his own self-preservation and just used them as a sacrifice because he wanted to eat. He wanted to stay alive, so he sacrificed them for his own saving. Okay? So, but with that all being said, do you all remember the story that happened in Canada in 2008, where a man was on a Greyhound bus and he beheaded another passenger and started eating them? Now, people said that was a person possessed by Wendigo. That's what was rumored. That person actually chopped this man's head off on the bus. So I'm going to tell you about that, because that was real crazy. Okay, the killing of Tim McLean. That was the gentleman's name who got slaughtered. Okay, this occurred on July the 30th of 2008. McLean was a 22-year-old Canadian man. He was stabbed, beheaded, and cannibalized while riding a Greyhound bus along the Trans-Canada Highway, about 30 kilometers west of Portage-la Prairie, Manitoba. On March the 5th of 2009, McLean's killer, a 40-year-old Chinese-Canadian named Vince Lee, was found not to be criminally responsible for the murder and was remanded to the high-security mental health facility in Selkirk, Manitoba, where he was detained until his release on May the 8th of 2015. So this man is out roaming free, just so you know. It has been so since 2015. Now, here's what happened. At 8:45 p.m. on July the 30th of 2008, Tim McLean, a carnival barker, was returning home to Winnipeg after working at a fair in Edmonton. He departed Edmonton on board a Greyhound bus 1170 to Winnipeg via the Yellowhead Highway through Saskatchewan. He sat near the rear, one row ahead of the toilet. Now, at 6:55 p.m., the bus departed from a stop in Erickson, Manitoba, with a new passenger. This passenger was Vince Wendigo Lee. Now, Lee, described as a tall man in his 40s with a shaved head and sunglasses, he originally sat near the front of the bus, but moved to sit next to McLean following a scheduled rest stop. McLean barely acknowledged Lee, then fell asleep, sat against the window pane with his headphones covering his ears. Now, according to witness accounts, McLean was sleeping with his headphones on when the man sitting next to him, Lee, suddenly produced a large knife and began stabbing him in his neck and chest. Now, imagine that. You are asleep and someone is sitting there stabbing you in your neck and chest. The killer is actually free now. Yes, absolutely. Okay? So he starts stabbing him in the neck and chest. After the attack began, the bus driver pulled to the side of the road and he and all of the passengers fled the vehicle because they didn't know what to do. Now, the driver and two other men made an attempt to rescue McLean, but were chased away by Lee, who slashed at them from behind the locked bus doors. Lee ultimately decapitated McLean and displayed his severed head to those standing outside of the bus, then returned to McLean's body and began severing other parts and consuming some of the man's flesh. At 8:30 p.m., the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, known as the RCMP, in Portage-la Prairie, received a report of a stabbing on a Greyhound bus west of the city. Now, they arrived to find the suspect still on board the bus, being prevented from escaping by another passenger, also the bus driver and a truck driver who had provided a crowbar and a hammer as weapons. Now, the other passengers were huddled at the roadside, some of them crying and some vomiting, as the suspect had earlier attempted to escape by driving the bus away. The driver had engaged the emergency immobilizer system, rendering the vehicle inoperable. Witnesses had observed the suspect stabbing and cutting McLean's body and carrying McLean's severed head. Now, by 9 p.m., police were in a standoff with the suspect and had summoned special negotiators and a heavily armed tactical units. The suspect alternatively paced the length of the bus and defiled the corpse. Police officers then observed Lee eating parts of the body. Meanwhile, the stranded passengers were transported from the scene to be interviewed at the Brandon RCMP detachments. Now, RCMP officers reportedly heard Lee say, "I have to stay on the bus forever." That's what he said. Now, on July the 31st of 2008 at 1:30 a.m., the suspect attempted to escape from the bus by breaking through a window. RCMP arrested Lee soon afterwards. He was shot with a taser twice, handcuffed and placed in the back of a police cruiser. Parts of the victim's body, placed in plastic bags, were retrieved from the bus, while his ear, nose, and tongue were found in Lee's pockets. So he was obviously keeping that for a snack later. Now, the victim's eyes and a part of his heart were never recovered, and are presumed to have been eaten by Lee. So he apparently ate the eyes and part of the heart. Now at 10 a.m., Greyhound representatives took the other passengers to a local store to replace their clothes, which remained on the bus. They arrived in Winnipeg at 3:30 p.m. that day to be reunited with family and friends. So that was all crazy, right? Now, Lee's trial commenced on March 3rd, 2009, with Lee pleading not criminally responsible on account of a mental disorder. This means he accepted that the offense occurred, but claimed that he was unable to form the necessary mental element of mens rea. Okay, mens rea is the intent, that he intended to do something malicious. Now, the psychiatrist said that Lee performed the attack because God's voice told him McLean was a force of evil and was about to execute him. That's what he apparently told his attorney, or the psychiatrist. Now, the presiding judge, John Scurfield, accepted the diagnosis and ruled that Lee was not criminally responsible for the killing. Lee was remanded to the Selkirk Mental Health Center. The week following the attack, Greyhound Canada announced it was pulling a series of nationwide advertisements, which included the slogan, "There's a reason you've never heard of bus rage." And then the incident has led to numerous calls and petitions demanding increased security on inner city buses. After the incident, People for the Ethnical Treatment of Animals, PETA, attempted to run an ad in Portage Daily Graphic comparing the killing of McLean to the consumption of animals. The family of Tim McLean have brought a lawsuit of $150,000 against Greyhound, the Attorney General of Canada, and Vince Lee. On June the 3rd of 2010, Lee was granted supervised outdoor walks with his mental health facility, within his mental health facility, as voted by the Provincial Review Board. On February the 16th of 2011, two passengers, Deborah Tucker and Kaylee Shaw, filed a lawsuit against Lee, Greyhound, and the RCMP, and the Canadian government for being exposed to the beheading. They were seeking $3 million in damages. On July the 14th of 2015, the two women dropped their lawsuit. So that was just all real crazy. Sweet and sour human flesh. I'm going on a permanent fast before I eat another human. Granted, it said the elite already put human flesh in our food. I'm going to ask my cousin about that. He told me he patrols deep in those towns with small populations. This some sick, narcissist, psychopathic, crazy shites. Yes, no bus rides for me. Hashtag no bus rides for me. Okay. So yeah, these some raggedy demonic beings walking with raggedy attacks. Okay, yes, absolutely. So that's the story of the Wendigos. You know, I don't know if you all believe in it or whatever, but I'm gonna tell you like this. In my opinion, when there's a rumor or a legend, there's usually some truth to it. If not, the entire thing is true. And at the end of the day, I do believe in demons and demonic, nefarious beings and ghosts and all that stuff. I do believe in it. At the end of the day, I also feel like when they talk about schizophrenia and mental illness, and I told you all this before, I think that is the same thing as demonic possession because they clearly have the exact same symptoms. Okay? So yes, I absolutely believe in that stuff. When riding the Greyhound bus, I asked the driver about this. He said it was just folklore and did not want to lose his job, no doubt. Right, woke one. So Wendigo is a movie on Hulu, I think. Burn your sage, queen. I definitely believe in demons. They are real. Absolutely, absolutely. So that all being said, listen, the bus driver may have said Wendigos are folklore. It is folklore, but at the end of the day, which is basically stories that people pass down from generation to generation. But that doesn't mean it isn't true. But at the end of the day, this story that happened on that Greyhound bus, that was definitely true. And there have been numerous people throughout history who have claimed to have seen and encountered these Wendigos. And if it isn't such a thing as a Wendigo, then who and what is making these people all of a sudden start having superhuman strength and just, attack someone and start eating them out of the blue? And when their bodies are tested for drugs, the toxicology report comes back that there was no drugs involved much of the time. So very, very strange, okay? Dwayne says dogmen and werewolves are real. Absolutely could be. I said zombies, apocalypse, unleashing terror, peoples, cannibalism is real. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely is. So with that all being said, I would like to thank you all for tuning back in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV presents Beyond the Realm. Hopefully you'll stay in the chat because I'm going to be coming right back on More Than Meets the Third Eye. Okay, so let me share the link with you for those of you who have not subscribed to that channel. You need to. Okay, I'm going live on there at 9:30 in just 5 minutes. Queen Ahmadiyyah TV, More Than Meets the Third Eye. I'm about to give you the link. And the topic tonight is, are you third eye blind? How do you know if your third eye can see? I'm going to be telling you some of the ways you can tell if your third eye is open or not. Hold on. That is not what I meant to put in there. Okay, hold on, people. Everyone, please like and share the video while I'm getting this link for you all. Okay, here we go. Okay. So, yeah, so there's the link. With that all being said, I wish you all love, peace, and prosperity. I hope to see you all right back in the chats. And until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.